Yo, what's up guys? How you guys doing? So today I'm gonna talk something about the newly elected Prime Minister of Japan, the first female Japanese Prime Minister in history. So it's making history. The name of the new Prime Minister is Sanae Takaichi. Yeah, in Chinese we call 高市早苗. Sanae Takaichi, and she's a newly elected Prime Minister of Japan, which is unprecedented. Never in Japanese history we have any female prime minister. So I'm gonna talk something about it. This phenomenon which is unparalleled, first time in history, and that will move a new era. That will bring Japan and even the world a new era. So my title is New Era of Japan. Many foreigners will be expelled. Sanae Takaichi became Japan's first female prime minister. So we have so many potential, result or consequences because of Sanae Takaichi's election, successful elected as prime minister of Japan, economic-wise, political-wise, and geopolitical-wise as well, of course, and also for the culture, for the population, this and that. So, for example, Takaichi Sanae has a very tough policy towards China theoretically, but I don't know what exactly, how exactly she would perform against China, because she is against CCP China, and she is against Chinese foreign policy. So that's why the Chinese diplomatic department, right? Administration of Foreign Affairs have already declared some kind of cultural war or some smear campaign on Takaichi already, right? So, from this, you can already know that, the war will break up between China and Japan in upcoming media war, international culture clashes, this and that. And Chinese population have already become a number one foreign population in Japan's soil, right? So Takaichi's gotta attack the, unreasonable, the foreign policy. So let's talk something about it, right? So the reason why I want to talk about this topic is because myself, I really love Japan. I've been living in Japan for about half a year while studying the Japanese language there as a language school student, right? So I think it's really important for me to understand where Japan will go in the future, because probably I might also travel to Japan in the future. I might try to buy a house or have some property there in Japan, try possibly to start a business there in Japan. But don't get me wrong, right? I also love America. Once I got my protection from America, once I have passed my law, passed the court, that kind of judging, I won my case, right? Then I become fully legalized. Now I'm here, I'm asylum seeker here, but still I'm facing my court date, right? So if everything went successfully, why would I be able to find a way so I can travel outside of America? But I will still love America. I will still pay American taxes, right? I love this country. I want to become American. I've been longing for this land for a long time. I'm doing my contribution to American society right now. I work as a translator, work as a Medicaid transportation provider, this kind of representative to assist the Medicaid transportation for the sick people, for the elders. So anyway, but I still love Japan because I feel Japan is a cultural representative of East Asia, more like a modernized Asian, more like a democratic Asian, unlike the CCP Chinese. Even though that's where I come from, but I do not like the political structure. Anyway, so we have so many aspects to talk about, but I want to focus on a more like a xenophobic aspect of Japan, and what would Sanae Takaichi possibly bring, because you never know for sure, right? Because a lot of times the election kind of campaign wars are not a real practice. For example, they say before Donald Trump got finally elected as American president, what he said are not 100%, you know, that cannot be 100% translated to the real actions after his election becoming successful, right? So, but what Takaichi has been saying about a foreign policy about immigration policy is that she feel like too many foreigners coming here to Japan. Too many foreigners using the illegal way stay in Japan, just like whatever Donald Trump has said and like borders are said before, right? So especially for some Muslims, especially for those people who come from Middle Eastern countries, and it was especially towards Chinese. So we have to be rational about it, because many Chinese population, they are using legalized way. They are using legal ways. They're doing a language school study, and they find a job in Japan, and then you use that work visa to stay in Japan, and after 10 years, they can be naturalized. So for the maybe many people marry a Japanese wife or Japanese husband. That's the way to get naturalized, right? So for other people, they're doing the business visa, business management visa, because previously the requirement for the Japanese business management visa is pretty low, I can say. It's just $250,000 for Chinese RMB. That's pretty low. So many people, including the working class, they can afford that. Well, that's just the base to start, right? You still have to invest more money annually. You still have to keep a very good looking fiscal numbers, right? You still have to make your company look good, but some people might cook the book, right? You know what I'm talking about. The fraudulent people, right? So that's in China, what we call the shell company, or something we call the suitcase company. 皮包公司, which means you're not really doing your business. You're just trying to cook the book. You just want to make your company look good. You're just trying to use a very small amount of money to get a Japanese identity, right? You're trying to get naturalized after 5 years. So that's kind of impossible right now. So that's a kind of a population that Takaichi want to drive them out. Because these people are exploiting the Japanese immigration system in a very unfair way, especially to those who really want to become sincere businessmen, who really want to do a lot of sincere business, the real business. For example, they would open up a restaurant, they have the property business, like real estate, right? They are in a car mending business, right? Car repair, car washing, this and that. Maybe they're in a software industry, like IT industry. I never heard of anybody doing the AI, like for example, a porn company, right? Because we know the Japanese porn was pretty famous. I have been thinking about that because porn in America is legal, also in Japan is legal. Of course, in Japan, you have to apply for some mosaic on a nude body, right? That's another story. But the thing is that for the businessman management visa, as far as I know, you have no right to do porn in Japan because that's a Japanese owning job. So no kidding, right? But I feel like Japan is still a land of some kind of discrimination. I have to be honest with you guys. Think about that. If you live in America, you have a legal status living in America, but you're not American yet, right? You're not naturalized yet. You have the right to do porn, just like every Americans. But in Japan, you cannot do porn if you're a foreigner. But if you were to be hired by a foreign company doing porn in Japan, that's fine. But the Japanese company may not hire you. So that's something that's pretty tricky, right? So especially you as a Japanese language student, for example, you're studying in Japan, you have the student visa. With the student visa, you can do nothing like a porn. You can never do that. Anyway, that's interesting to know. So the thing is that they trying to drive out those foreigners who act cheaply and who act fraudulently, right? You just want a $250,000 Chinese RMB to like every year from a start. I don't know, for the annual add-on investment. I don't know how much that would be, but I guess it's much less than the initial investment, which for the initial investment is really small amount of money. So $250,000 Chinese RMB equals probably like 5 or like 4.6, like 460. No, it's like 46,000. Yeah, 46,000 American dollars. That's not a lot of money. Basically now they're trying to 6 times the investment amount, right? So now we're talking about 1.5 million RMB to start that business. So that will drive many people away. Many Chinese already start parking. Not just Chinese, right? Also some Koreans, some Singaporeans, some Indonesian people, some people from European, some people from other countries. They are planning to leave Japan because the xenophobic, that sentiment, right? We have a xenophobic sentiment in Japanese society right now because the economic situation is pretty bad. They are growing very slowly. Their economy have been stagflation for about 40 years or maybe longer than that, right? So they are not really growing. And we have a lot of foreigners coming here. They never learn Japanese, and they laugh at Japanese to say Japanese people are shy, this and that, especially for some scumbag like Logan Paul, like I know he's trying to make a fame for himself. Have you noticed that he become more famous after that? He become crazy, he behaved crazy in Tokyo street, right? Holding dying octopus and throw the octopus around and trying to scare out the old ladies, like terrible stuff, and went to the suicide forest. That's pretty disastrous, that behavior is unacceptable. But because of that, more people understand who he is after that. So he's notoriously famous after that. Anyway, so we have some Westerners, people copying him. Now, of course, no offense, right? Not every the Westerners I come across in Japan mostly are very polite, but there are some Westerners who are really loud and disrespectful. Some people do the break dancing in a subway, in the Shinkansen, right? That's totally unacceptable. There's a foreign guy, Caucasian guy, he's playing some video games and doing live streaming and very loudly, right? The Japanese old guy come here and say, hey, dame desu yo, you can never do that. And this guy's trying to touch him. Well, in Japan, this is also unacceptable, between the strangers. But maybe the elder guy think he's an elder person, right? He must be respected because in Japan, just like China, we have to respect the elder people most of the time, right? Unless you will get attacked by the person first, right? So that guy's trying to touch him. But then, the foreign guy is like, yeah, what the hell you're doing, right? Trying to push him, So it's a lot of bad dynamics happening in that carriage of the train. And that's that video become really popular in Japanese internet, also internationally. So we have a guy, like black guy named Somali, you know that guy, in Japan, he said, Hiroshima, Nagasaki, he said something like, oh, you guys deserve that, this and that, offending a lot of Eastern Asians, right? So then but Japanese people just don't care, it's not because they're shy or they're crowdly or they're timid. No, it's because they don't want to. They feel like you're nothing, because if you're disrespecting their culture, they feel like you're already wasted because you're stupid. They don't want to waste time to talk to you, maybe some Japanese gangsters make him, say sorry, just like many Japanese gangsters that you see from the video games, right? You see these guys with all the Japanese tattoo, this and that, So basically, he was scared. So he ran from Japan to some other countries, to Israel. He got bullied by a bunch of, cops. Israeli cops are no joke, right? Because he sees something derogatory to the female cop there, and he got captured by the male cops there. And then he went back to Asia and going to Korea, and then he was beat up fiercely by 2 Koreans, right? So now he's in Korean jail, But basically, so a lot of this loud and disrespectful behavior in the Japanese public places got exposed, and these videos went rampant on the internet. So that's why many people want to just throw them away. Many Japanese feel like they are offended. So you can see there are many xenophobic demonstrations happening in Tokyo and Osaka, in many big cities in Japan. They are against the immigration. So why Chinese would be the main target? Because Chinese people are notoriously known as, disrespectful and impolite. Well, no offense, I love my own people, right? I'm one of the Chinese, but I do not typically behave like a Chinese. I use please, thank you. I use a lot of applied words, but not with most Chinese. I'm sorry. No offense, right? But the thing is that many Chinese from the older generation or from the suburbs instead of from the city, right? They are poor, they are uneducated, they behave in a rustic way, they behave in a very violent way sometimes. They will use a violent language, they will shout loud, they will try to beat you up, this and that. So when these things happen in Japan, Japanese people got fed up, which is totally understandable. I'm not trying to justify that, right? There is a reason that you hate these people. But of course, not every Chinese behave like that. I behave like a very civilized way. When I'm in Japan, I talk I talk in a very small volume, in a low volume. And in the subway, I always switch off my mobile phone or I just make it on a mute mode, right? I never would make out any music. I would never play any music publicly. I would never talk loud in the subway. I would always respect the culture. Right? When I enter someone's room, when I enter a restaurant, I say, may I come in, this and that. You always use the politest form that I could. Maybe sometimes I don't know any better because maybe I'm not a Japanese. My Japanese language is not on that level. But for the polite Japanese, whenever I know I could, or, with my best knowledge, I would use that, so they can understand I'm trying to appreciate the culture. So in Japan, I will have a Japanese friend. I was never offended by anybody or offended anybody there. Okay, anyway. But the thing is that I feel it's very important for the foreigners to understand the era of open Japanese society, or, loving foreigners without condition, peaceful Japanese society with very timid and shy people. Maybe that time is over. And the Japanese xenophobia become a little bit bullish right now. You know what I mean? Just like a stock market going higher. And, we have the bearish, we have the bullish, right? I would use the term, the Japanese xenophobia become a little bit bullish right now. Okay? So keep in mind, because the new female prime minister, she's just an emblem. She's just the, kind of sign that the Japanese xenophobic stuff, right? And this might be a little bit dangerous because this lady also want to bring back the old mighty glory of old Japanese army and navy. Just like his predecessor, right? Fukushima, right? I kind of forgot that former prime minister's name. It's like Fukushima or something like that. Yeah. So basically, Fumio, yes. So the thing is that I feel like, guys, watch out, okay? Let's see how Japan would deal with China and how Japan would actually deal with a large bunch of immigration, because Japan is in a big dilemma right now. Without a lot of immigration, Japanese people cannot do enough construction work. They cannot do enough plumbing work, So when I'm staying in Tokyo, I see a lot of the Turkish people, Toroku, right? They call them Toroku. Torokujin, right? It means Turkish people. The Torokujins are doing a lot of construction work and demolishing job. Chinese are doing a lot of the fries, even for some Japanese food, their Chinese are making it, especially, and even for the chuka ryuri, right? That's for the Chinese food, of course. For the chuka guy, right? It means the Chinese street, like Chinatown or something like that. Many of these Chinese guys work there. So Chinese are for the restaurant, Turkish people are for the demolition business or construction business. And we have Indonesian guy, we have the Indian guy working at 7-Eleven, Lawson, things like that. So basically, we do not have enough blue collar labor force in Japan from the local people. Many young people, they just want to become a rap star. They want to become a musician. They want to become an Instagram influencer, model, fashion, something like Harajuku. They want to be fashionable. They want to be shiny. They do not want to work as a dirty job. Okay, and they do not have enough birth rate right now. And their birth rate has been declining for years, for decades, not to say. Okay? So guys, pay attention to that. I think this is a very important aspect for you guys to be watchful about, right? Let's see what Takaichi can bring to the table. Okay, and of course, for the economy, Japan is also on a mild decline, right? So think about the AI era, think about the electric car. Japan is kind of falling behind. Well, no offense, I still love Japan. Well, because I do not have a country to go back to. I hate CCP. And I'm kind of known, I'm not the most famous anti-CCP guy in the world, of course, but with all the content I create from the internet, the anti-CCP content, I'm gonna make some anti-CCP rap song, I'm gonna do more anti-CCP video in the future, so I'm sure I can never go back to my mother country CCP. So why Japan? Japan is the country which is the closest to China in its cultural origin, yet very democratized, right? Very free. So that's a very fashionable, very clean, very polite. I love everything about Japanese. I don't know anything about ancient culture though, but for the modern culture, I love everything about it, so to speak, right? So I wish, even if in the future, I get legally protected for my lawyer, I get, the judge say, yes, okay, I would really appreciate that. Even that I get an American visa in the future, I will, because American visa, for going to Japan, that's like 3-month visa free annually, right? I'll probably buy a house in Japan and I'll probably visit Japan regularly. But of course, I'll still pay taxes to America because I love America, because American protected me, because America gave me job, American gave me money, American gave me, okay. I don't mean, I get free money from America. Of course, I have to work for that, right? So that's why I become a part of American economy chain. I become a part of the contribution to American GDP. Maybe just a slice, very, very little slice of that, but I'm so proud of myself, I'm doing contribution to American society. I should love American society, right? Never betray it. That's very important. Unlike China, when I'm living in China, even though I pay taxes to Chinese government, but there's no benefit, maybe that taxes has been, taking bribes from other people, maybe that taxes has been the kickbacks of the corrupt officials. Who knows, right? Because you pay your taxes, but when you were to receive benefit, you receive no benefit. In America, if you're a beggar, if you are about to die, I'm not talking about the most, nutritious meal in the world, but you have a lot of free places to go for the free meal. For example, New York City, you have so many church places, you have so many free food handouts, right? If you have nowhere to live, many people, for example, for the drug addict, no offense, but many people choose to live in the street with the other drug addict, right? But if you're not drug addict, you're just poor, right? You're just simply poor. You have somewhere to go. You have the shelter. Even you have to apply for a shelter. Maybe sometimes you don't have the chance to get a shelter, but at least you have the chance to apply. Not in China, though. Not in China. If you're poor, you have nowhere to go. The only way for you is to live in the street and die. No government give you a dime, no nothing. You pay your taxes when you're able to, when you were able to, right? But if you were to become a beggar, nobody pay you everything. Nobody pay you anything. So you're about to die in the street gradually, So the Chinese taxation system is fake. It's not really for the benefit of the general public, but America is different. So that's why I love America. Well, America is far from being perfect. Of course, that I know. We never have any perfect country in the world. Not in history, not for now, okay? But America is the closest country, I feel like America along with Japan, closest country to being perfect, okay? So anyway, I feel like many foreigners, right, indeed, like a Chinese, not every Chinese, right, not for the law-abiding Chinese like me when I was in Japan, right, maybe for the Chinese people who just want to use a very small of money and fraudulent and, just fraud the whole system to get a citizenship, no way. Now, you're gonna go right now. Pack your stuff and go, okay? For no offense, right? But for some Muslims, right? This and that. You're living in their country and you're trying to force Japanese people to believe your things? Well, I respect every religion, right? But it's your own country. You make your own rules. But when you're living in Japan, can you force the Japanese people to believe your law? Of course no. So many of these people will also have to be driven out from Japan, along with some Chinese, not every Chinese though. Some badly behaved people, some bad actors on the international stage. I'm just for a joke. Some bad actors for the immigrant population, right? They have to go. So I just wish the newly elected Sanae Takaichi, she can carry out a lot of smart policies, right? Not to really hurt Japanese economy, because we still need some immigrants there, right? But just to drive out those people who were to be driven out, who should be driven out, right? But keep those good ones and just get rid of the bad ones. This is pretty tricky. Let's watch. Let's see how she would do and the whole government of Japan would do, okay? Okay, that's for today's sharing. Have a nice day. Thank you guys. Bye-bye.